that live? What?
Okay, councillors, we're now live.
Thank you, and welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting of the 20th of August 2020. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and pay respects to elders past and present. Councillors, Councillor Wright, we had a leave of absence for you for this meeting, but I see you're here, and I understand you're withdrawing that leave of absence.
That's correct. Yeah, please withdraw it.
Okay, and would you like to move that you withdraw that leave of
Yes,
request?
I can move that. Yeah.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Larter. All in favour? Okay, you're welcome to attend this meeting, Councillor Wright. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
attendance. And
Yeah, you honor me.
sorry to hear your holiday is cancelled. Moving on, councillors, to declaration of pecuniary interest. Pursuant to section 4 of the Code of Conduct, councillors are required to declare any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in any matters being considered by council. Councillors, I have a pecuniary interest in 11.1 in that one of those grants is going to an organisation that utilises a building that is owned by AGT Financial Services, and I'm a board member of AGT Financial Services. So I'll be withdrawing from that section of the report, and I'll be leaving to a breakout room.
Mr. Mayor, I have a pecuniary interest, Margaret Isselman, declaring a non-pecuniary interest in the relation of the report 11.1 due to a member of Rotary Club of Batlow and I wrote the report, and we'll leave the room, the application, and we'll leave the room during the discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Isselman. Any further declarations of interest, pecuniary interest? Thank you. There's no public forum. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. Before we do that, I might just go to another page, councillors, and read this. Live streaming of council meetings. This meeting is live streamed on council's website to allow the community to follow council debates and decisions. Members of the public participating in a meeting agree to have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded and publicly broadcast. Snowy Valleys Council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that are made during the course of a meeting, and any part of the meeting that is held in closed session will not be streamed. Please ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voices or images permitted. In the event of emergency, please use the nearest exit. And temporary provisions under section 447A of the Local Government Act. Council is currently operating under temporary provisions of section 447A of the Local Government Act, which allows for online meetings and the provision of the Act to take precedence over any conflicts with the adopted Snowy Valleys Council Code of Meeting Practice. Councillors, that takes us through to the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 16th of July. Somebody move those minutes, please. Councillor Ham and Councillor Wright. Arising from those? Councillor Ham.
I just would like an update how we're going with Humulink and Transgrid, and I know since we last spoke there's been some consultation, but just if the CEO has heard anything else, what's happening there.
Through the chair, Councillor Ham. Yes, we have had a number of discussions with Humulink. We've had an extensive workshop with them. We are still waiting for the formal response to the questions that we've asked. They have promised that they will provide those to us. We've also had some discussions with them specifically around the Tumut Airport and facilitated a venue for some community groups to meet with them as well.
Okay.
Councillor Ham, I believe that the community groups were meeting this morning with the federal member Christy McBain and our member for Wagga Wagga, Joe McGurr. I believe they've met with them earlier today and are now meeting with Transgrid as well. So that's where we're up to, starting the
Excellent. Yep. It was just a bit slow, that consultation.
Yes.
Mr.
Councillor
Mayor?
Visselman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 18 on the tablet, L1 streetlight LED replacement. It's upgrading the streetlights across the local government area. Is there any opportunity for that particular replacement project to recognise that certain streetlights in some of the villages have been removed over the last few years, in particular since the bushfires, and they're not when they replace the poles, have not replaced the lighting? And are we able to bring that to their attention? In Batlow, I know there are at least 5 streetlights that haven't been replaced since the bushfire.
Thank you, Councillor Visselman. I'll hand that over to the Director of Infrastructure.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Isselman. Yeah, thank you very much for raising that. I wasn't aware of that they hadn't been replaced. Any information we can get on locations would be great. And yeah, I'll certainly raise that with Essential Energy because yeah, my expectation is that if fire impacted infrastructure, they should be replacing that, particularly given that yeah, we're the owner of that infrastructure and we pay for it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Because some of the poles no longer have the tag number on the pole. So you can't identify where the light's gone from by using the tag number as such.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll arrange for one of our surveillance officers to do a check through Batlow, and we'll see what we can identify. And maybe, yeah, if anyone lets you know that there's a light, they know of a light that's missing, yeah, pass that on to us, and we'll
I'll let you know the 5 I know and pass the word around. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pritchard?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just getting back to the Transgrid poles, I've noticed that they are looking at the map that they're going right beside Visy Mill at Adlong. Can you tell me, is there any significance in that? Has Visy got any plan to join up or manufacture electricity on site?
Councillor Pritchard, I chair the Visy Community Consultative Committee. We met last week. I asked that very question: why was it necessary to have the Transgrid line going to Visy? The manager of the mill said on the night that no, it wasn't necessary to have them, as far as he was concerned, the Transgrid going to the mill, and there was no. Although they do produce energy on site, it only equates to about half of what they use. But there's no, they said there were no immediate plans to have any further energy production on site that they would be looking to export via that Hume link, given that they already have 2 high voltage lines coming into the site.
It just seems an amazing coincidence.
It does, and that's why I asked the question. And
Yes.
the manager was particularly frank on the night.
Thank you.
Anything further, councillors? Put the motion all in favour. It's carried unanimously. Councillors, that brings us to the minutes of the meeting held via video link on Thursday, the 30th of July, 2020. Do I have a mover for those minutes? Councillor Wright, Councillor Ham. Anything arising from those? Nothing. I'll put the motion that we accept those minutes. All in favour? That's carried. Councillor Lisselman? Unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, this brings us to the mayoral minute, local government seat on the National Cabinet. So I need to, first of all, do we have a mover for those, or I'd rather, before we do, that we make an amendment to that. And just by way of explanation, this is something that's been sent to all councils by Local Government New South Wales, and probably in other states as well. We did omit our local member for Albury, and we also I'd like to make sure that he's added to that, Justin Clancy. But also, before we move it, but also have our local MLCs added to that, and that would be Wes Fang, Nick Beach and Bronnie Taylor. And as well as that, following his interest in the bushfires and his presence here for much of the time during the fires, Michael McCormack, the Deputy Prime Minister. So if we can add those.
Mr. Mayor, I think you should probably also add Matthew Mason Cox as well, because he's the Liberal MLC for this area.
Okay, certainly. Thank you. Were you moving that way, Councillor Larder, with those additions? Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ham. Comments?
Mr. Mayor, I think it's a great idea, but this COVID virus has exposed a lot of faults in our national constitution, to my mind. I'm putting up a notice at the next meeting regarding the fact regarding this, and looking towards using the opportunity of the COVID crisis to look at our national constitution, to look at a lot of the anomalies that occur with our present form of governance. I'll say no more at the moment, but just foreshadowing that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard, and certainly COVID, and that is going to be the catalyst for lots more change, I believe, as well. So with those additions, councillors, I've spoken to Mr. Clancy, and he's happy with that. I'll put the motion. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. 2.1 Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference, November 2020. Assuming it goes ahead. Councillor Smith. Councillor Wright. Councillor Smith.
Simply to say that this is an important event for local councils to be able to network with each other, as well as a lot of information about what's going on in the national scene or the state scene, and to also have the opportunity to have input into the business of the meeting through our mayor and deputy mayor in this case. And so I think it's an important thing for us to attend.
Thank you. Any further comment?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It could well be that it's a non-meeting because of the COVID virus. I'd like to be involved in it if it's some way of doing it online. I can't go to the meeting, unfortunately, but maybe that we can be involved if they change their way of presenting it or running the meeting.
Councillor Pritchard, I'd say there'll be every chance that there is some opportunity for remote attendance or being able to if it does go to Zoom in. So I guess we just stay note your intention and stay tuned.
Thank you.
And I would like to follow that through in the same vein, please.
Thank you, Councillor Usselman. So the motion we've got is for those councillors to attend this. The budget is unexpended to date, which is not unusual given the circumstances. So I'll put the motion. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. 2019-2020 operational plan, fourth quarter update, 10.2. 2 recommendations. Councillor Cross, Councillor Ham. I think Councillor Pritchard is just scrolling.
I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling. There's my other hand.
Councillor Cross?
I think this has been an extraordinary result where we've got out of the operational plan, out of the capital works, we've got 71% of those have been completed. And out of the major projects, we've got 60% of them in train with 40% complete. I think given the year we've had, that really is an amazing achievement. And we've got 104 actions done out of the 111. So it really is a magnificent achievement on behalf of the staff, and I'd like to congratulate them.
Thank you, Councillor Cross. Anything further, councillors? Councillor Ham?
I agree with you, Kate. I think how you guys have got through the operational plan as well as you have is just tremendous. So I think that's been brought to my attention a lot, and Councillor Isserman and Councillor Schmidt are probably closer to this, is 2.6.2, and that is to complete a program business case for Batlow Cannery site that tests investments options and identifies a preferred mix of development steps to be delivered over the next 5 to 10 year period. Now, it was impacted by bushfires. I just don't understand why now there's not, I mean, there's still that space there, why there isn't going to be a business case. And if that is the case, that's fine, but where's the money gone?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Ham, that item there was proposed in the operational plan prior to the bushfires. There was money set aside. Council made a decision to do the demolition of the site, which cost a lot more money, and that took up the money for the business case as well. However, we have been able to put aside some money for future master planning around that site as part of our funding program. And I might ask Mr. Holton to just give us some more details on
that. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have approximately $90,000 allocated to the process whereby we will undertake an environmental assessment of the site, as well as a spatial assessment of the site, and then go back to the community and engage with them around what future use there may be for that site going forward, with the knowledge and understanding of what the environmental limitations are and how the site may work spatially in relation to the rest of the town.
Thank you.
And I mean, that sounds fantastic and sounds like the priority is excellent there. However, there's people asking, and I know it's going to confidential today, why is it being leased already before that sort of consultation? How has that come about?
Once again, through you, Mr. Mayor, there was a public expressions of interest process undertaken in relation to the future of that cannery site, and there were a number of submissions, and there were a number of submissions, and only one was left viable following the bushfire, and that is the purpose to which it is currently being leased for. So council has currently leased out the site to a nurseryman for the propagation of pine seedlings, which will assist in the I guess rebuilding the future of the pine plantation pine timber industry. And I know that in confidential there is a report considering another purpose of that style. Thank you.
So there can't be any probity issues with this at all. It went to expressions of interest. It's we've followed due process.
That's correct, Councillor Ham.
Thank you.
Councillor Whistleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if I may, please, I'd just like to compliment the work that's been going on in relation to the cannery, and in particular the opportunity to gain employment for people within the town, because the planning for the cannery site can't be blue sky thinking. It has to be reality backed by finance, and that's what we need for the township of Batlow, is financial investments in the town that are real finances and not just somebody dreaming up a great idea with no backing. So I'm personally very pleased to hear that this particular opportunity has come to fruition, if that's the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whistleman. Councillors, anything further on the operational plan? Put the motion, all in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, that brings us to governance and finance reports. 10.3, disbanding of council committees. There's a few committees there that we feel that we can do without. 8 recommendations there. Do I have a mover?
Can I move that we go into committee, Mr. Mayor, to discuss this?
Councillor Pritchard, you can move. We go into committee. Yes. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Larter, all in favour? Unanimous in committee. Councillor Pritchard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A number of committees have fallen by the wayside over recent years, and partly because their functions were fulfilled. For example, the Railway Precinct Committee. But one that worried me is that the Wetlands Committee has disappeared, and it's largely because it's well established. But on the other hand, I don't like to leave a vacuum there. I'd like to see a river walk committee set up to give advice and make plans for future expansion of the Tumut River Walk. Now, that's just one example, but I wonder whether we shouldn't be calling for public comment on this before we pass it all, and ask for, I mean, we shouldn't just have, I believe, a motion to disband committees. I think it's reasonable to have a motion to look at the committees altogether, whether we should have new committees as well. But I think that they played a very important very important role in the past in organising some of these community bodies, and I think we should be looking at it. And I'd certainly be proposing that we have a Tumut River Walk committee established at some stage, but should we put it out for public comment?
We can do that, but the motion we've got here is to disband some of these. This doesn't, so that would be a separate motion, I think, or something we could discuss at a workshop and then move on from there. The idea of a complete trails committee, Shire Wallow, might be an opportunity.
It's just the trails. There are all sorts of trails being put up in the air, and many of them are fanciful, I think, but I think the River Walk in Tumut is one of the icons of the area, and I think a lot of people use it, a lot of people would have input, and it's one thing that I'd like to see established. Whether we do it now or at the next meeting, I don't know.
Yes, and I think so, and it may also attract some more volunteers for us too.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Council does consider annually in September its list of committees and the future and the representation on those committees. So that will be on the agenda for the next council meeting.
Thank you.
That's to Councillor Pritchard.
Rayburn?
Does that suit you?
Yeah, I'm happy, but I'd like to hear what the other councillors have to say.
Councillor Cross was next, I think.
I think it gives us an ideal opportunity to look at the committees that we are dissolving, because there's a great opportunity for them to be linked into a bigger picture Snowy Valleys Council committee. For example, the Tumbarumba airfield, that can go, you know, there are other airfields within Snowy Valleys Council that they can all come together. And now that we've got Zoom, this is an ideal opportunity for people who may not want to actually physically come to meetings, but they can still participate in those meetings. So I think it gives us an ideal opportunity for that September meeting to look at how we can revamp them.
Councillor Smith was next, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to draw attention to one of these committees that we're proposing to disband, Snowy Valleys Tourism Committee. I was, in fact, as you may recall, partly involved in getting that committee set up at the beginning of our council term. But I would just like perhaps for our Chief Executive Officer to perhaps explain how the function of that committee is now, in fact, being undertaken by other committees and other departments within council.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think that's more of a question for the Director for Community and Corporate, as Tourism and Economic Development's in his portfolio.
Thank you.
So as written, I think as articulated in the report, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, as articulated in the report, we are establishing focus groups, a focus group on economic development, which will include a tourism focus as well.
Thank you.
And I think we should mention Destination Riverina as well, and the big part they play with tourism in our area.
Well, yes, we do. We do have officers who work specifically around promoting the region, as well as, so we have one officer that promotes the region to attract tourists, and another officer who promotes the things that people can do within the region for the tourists. And we do a lot of liaising with Destination Riverina Murray to actually come up with projects to bring more people into the region. So we're very active in the tourism space, and through these focus groups, we would be seeking broader input from the people involved in the tourism business and the tourism industry to get their thoughts and ideas around what we can do into the future.
Thank you. Councillor Lada.
Only to say that it's not always my experience, but sometimes I think these committees become cartels. You know, they end up with collective interest groups on them. They don't deal with a lot of substance, and you end up getting political agendas driven by some members who, you know, want particular outcomes. And I agree with Councillor Cross. I think it should be more of a holistic approach across the whole spectrum of the committees, more balanced approach. So instead of just dealing with 3 airports, you deal with all the airports in one committee. I mean, it just makes sense. And I mean, the last thing we want is the staff being overrun with reports and running committees and councillors who can't get to these things because, you know, there's a meeting on every half hour. I mean, it's not what we want, or it's not what I want.
Thank you, Councillor Risselman.
Just to reiterate what has been said previously, but this review of council committees is a wonderful opportunity to go forward and support one Snowy Valleys Council instead of having town-centric council committees, and I think that's a very important direction.
Thank you. Councillor Pritchard.
Yes, just the final thing, of course, I'm just using tourism as an example. Most of, or any committee really, most of the people involved are people whose professional employments regarding safer tourism, but that doesn't necessarily represent the broad community who we represent. And I think it's our councillors' responsibility to be involved in some of these things. I think we should have a council on any of these serious committees to stop them being made hobby horses for particular issues.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Anything further? Councillor Cross.
I think we've got a perfect opportunity to start looking at all of our committees, really, because we've got some governance issues around our 355 committees that we're looking at. And, you know, and it's obvious that if these committees are not being, they're no longer active or they've never been established, then it really is an ideal opportunity to do an audit of all the committees and which ones are going to be, how they're going, you know, what's the best fit for all of them.
Thank you. Councillor Lada.
I'll just pick up on what Councillor Cross said there. That's been a subject that's come up at the governance committee meetings, audit committee meetings about 355 committees, because essentially I think there needs to be a lot more guardianship and a lot more scrutiny on what is going on inside some of these committees. You know, as you're aware, some of these committees, you know, could be potentially leaving us liable with regards to their conduct. And, you know, and we're not fully aware of what's going on, and they're not reporting exactly what's going on, and you know, information is very scarce. So you know, it definitely needs a thorough investigation and look.
Thank you, Councillor Cross.
This was actually one of the recommendations that the AREC, which is totally independent of council, one of their recommendations that we look at 355 committees. They saw that as quite a risk for both those committees and for council. So it really is a very timely opportunity.
Councillors, would someone like to move that we go out of committee? Councillor Wright, Councillor Lata, all in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you. Councillors, we still have those 8 recommendations there. Do we have a mover? Councillor Smith, Councillor Ham. Any further discussion? Put the motion, all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Draft privacy management plan for public exhibition. Four recommendations. Councillor Ham. Councillor Lada. Councillor Ham.
Just to encourage the public to look at this policy and for us to have a good close look at it as well before it's passed.
Thank you. Anything further? Put the motion, all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Quarterly NCI FSCF grants report. Councillor Ham, Councillor Lada.
I just love looking at this report. What we've achieved, or what everyone on council has achieved, is remarkable. So congratulations. I just wouldn't mind asking the Director for Infrastructure. There's 90,000 left on the rail trail. I'm just hoping that gets a couple of toilets along the way. Is that a possible thing?
Director, Executive, of course.
Mayor, Councillor Ham, yeah, very, very much intending to utilise that funding to further enhance the rail trail. We're in negotiations with the department now, discussions around how we vary the scope to include additional toilets. I think that's probably the priority thing on our list of enhancements. Yeah, and we're working through the process of being able to retain the leftover funding to do those additional works, and I'll keep councillors posted on how we go with that.
No, congratulations! It is just such a pleasure going there and seeing the amount of people in Tumbarumba. It's brilliant.
Thank you. Anything further? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Councillor Smith, yep, gotcha. Thank you. Unanimous. 10.6, Statement of Investments as of July. Councillor Ham. Councillor Lada.
Yep, well, these are looking very good. Congratulations to the CFO. And I would like to just probably back to the Director of Infrastructure again. We've got $2.2 million coming in RMS payments. Is that normal for this time of year, or have we got extra, is that because of extra contracts? And I noticed that we've spent $617,000 on the Alpine Way. So we've spent that, but how is the Alpine Way going? And is there any progress there at all? And are we doing it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Ham, great question. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that.
No, that's good. It's good. Gives me the opportunity to promote. I think, roughly speaking, we've completed in the order of $5 million of work for Transport for New South Wales on the state roads and some slope stabilisation works on Alpine Way. Been a very successful year. And yeah, all that work has been completed. And that's what you can see there as far as the financial translations go.
Right. And the Alpine Way, any magical update, or is its status quo still the same?
Sorry, are you referring to Elliott Way or?
Oh, I am returning. Sorry, yes, I am. Yes,
yeah,
I am referring. That's a bit of a stretch. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
I might leave the General Manager to advise on the status of Elliott Way.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. To Councillor Ham, we have had more discussions with Parks and Wildlife Service regarding assisting them. They are working through their process at the moment. One of the holdups is actually doing some of the testing while the ground is frozen, is not able to be completed. So they have got more work to do. They have got some of that done. They are preparing to get out to tender as soon as possible. And Council has also notified them of our capability with our third-party works program and the certifications in which we have to be able to assist them as another government agency rather than taking a longer procurement process and going out to the whole community for that. And our processes obviously do use our local contractors as well, so that would have significant benefit. We are at every forum that we get, taking the opportunity to push along, getting the Elliott Way open as soon as practically possible.
Thank you. And sorry about my mix up there, but back to the Alpine Way. Have we got anywhere with that 60, the 22 kilometres of 60K zone? I know has that anything come back on that, and how is it impacting things? Have you any feedback in that area?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Ham, I haven't received any feedback directly, but we do have a traffic committee meeting next week. So I'll ask the question there and see if we can get some feedback, and then I could refer that back to council.
That'd be excellent. Thank you.
Anything further? All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 10.7, financial report. Councillor Pritchard, you moving that?
No, I'm just moving on. Sorry.
I'll get you on the books yet. Do I have a mover? Councillor thank you very much. And a seconder. This is like pulling teeth. Councillor Benjamin, thank you. Anything? Any comment? I had a question.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Mayor, I was going to ask the CFO if she wouldn't mind talking to this report.
CFO.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Ham. This it is a self-explanatory report, really. Basically we're doing a first month of financial reporting, which is usually a bit difficult because the budget spread is over 12 months. We're doing well for the first months, but we also are still finalizing financial statements for last year. So we're actually not in a position to give you a full financial report with opening balances for this month.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything
Thank you.
further? Put the motion on. Oh, Councillor Smith, sorry.
Yeah, look, in terms of the expenditure, there's a note on this budget that employee costs are above budget by a considerable amount, 32.51%. And I just wanted to make the note that this is made up of overtime staff engaged in disaster recovery, and that the bushfires and, of course, again, the COVID situation now has impacted greatly on council's expenditure. So that's reflected in the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Yes, and traditionally people would be away or on toil or whatever this time of year, as Councillor Wright would know. CFO, did you have something to add to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Most of these projects are actually funded, so it's an in and an out. There will be a relative revenue against these extra expenses as well.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Smith. Anything further, councillors? Put the motion all in favour. Unanimous, thank you. Uh, 10.8, review and approval of carryovers. Councillor Ham, Councillor Cross, Councillor
Ham. Thank you. This is quite interesting. The one point that I'd like to bring up, it's just sort of like rumbling around in the background, is the Ross Corner Medical Centre lease. And there's a carryover of $58,000 there. Just wouldn't mind talking to the executive, Paul Holton, about why that is, and you know, if this is a leased building, why isn't that $58,000? Why wasn't that spent? And, you know, why we've got all these locums, we want to keep attracting them, and it probably would be a great time if you give us an update on how things are going with Ross Corner Medical Centre.
That's your second long bow today, Councillor Ham, but Mr. Holton.
For the question, Councillor Ham, we currently have locums regularly swinging through the Ross Corner Medical Centre, so we continue to provide a good service there to the community. We did have a doctor that was interested in leasing the building and establishing or continuing the practice there some time back, but unfortunately when he was located in Western Australia and when the COVID-19 pandemic became a reality, he has remained in that location, and so therefore any negotiations that we had with that doctor stalled and have not been able to be picked up since then. So we continue to swing locums through, and at this stage the cost of doing that is probably greater, but at the same time we do generate income, which in general covers the cost of operating the practice.
Okay, and there's still, I noticed in the Tumba Times there were articles saying that we're pushing to sell the building, and at this stage, as far as I know, that is not the case at all. At this stage, we're just looking for a doctor.
At this stage, I can say that there have been some inquiries from doctors who wish to, who would be interested in taking over the practice. But unfortunately, they would want to purchase the building as part of taking over that practice. And as we have had a position where that wasn't seen to be a favourable outcome with the community, the selling of that building. To date, we haven't progressed any of those discussions.
I think that's appreciated by the Tumbarumba community.
Councillor Isselman.
Unmute, Councillor Isselman.
Unmute, Councillor Isselman.
Apologies, my apologies. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On number 2, commence projects, the very first one recognises the lot and section number, but refers to Hydes Park as the location for the sound system. And I'm not sure that Hydes Park is actually officially gazetted as the name of a location in Batlow, but as it has emerged as a colloquial term for that space. And I'm just drawing attention to the fact that we maybe need to pay attention to the naming of things in some of these details, because as I know it, Hydes Park is just, you know, the local terminology for that particular area. So we need to move on that one.
I think we decided through council to ratify it as Hydes Park some time ago, but that'll be somewhere in the minutes.
That's something we could look up.
Yeah.
Please.
Through the chair, we'll look that up. It does have an official signpost at the front that says Hydes Park, but we'll ascertain whether that is confirmed in a resolution.
Councillor Cross.
I'm a bit confused. If you look at the approved budget and then you look at the amount of money expended, the carryover amount doesn't balance with the approved budget. So I'm a bit confused as to what some of those figures actually mean. For example, if you look at the Fitzroy Park bollards, the approved budget was 16,770 and what's been expended is 7,900 and something, and the carryover amount is 7,000. It doesn't actually, my calculations, it should actually be 7,000 something. Oh, sorry, not that one, another one. But some of them, they don't balance out, if you see what I mean. So I was just a bit confused.
Thank you, Councillor Cross. That's probably a question for the CFO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Cross, the carryover amount reflects what our best estimate is to finish the project.
Right.
So it's not necessarily exactly up to budget, as budget estimates can sometimes be a bit off when you finally have the final amount.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. I just thought it just doesn't quite add up, and I was a bit confused.
Thank you to the CFO. Anything further, councillors? Councillor Larter.
Just back to the Ross Corner Medical Centre. I don't know whether it's clear or not, but if there has been an expression of interest from anyone to purchase that building and to put forward a plan for an ongoing medical practice into the long term into that facility, I'd hope that would come to council to be considered as part of any normal, rather than not being seen. Is that the case?
It was my understanding that council had ruled out the sale of the building. However, if there is, if council would like to discuss, an offer from a medical practitioner who also wishes to purchase the building, I would happily bring that to a councillor discussion for consideration as to how to progress with such an offer. If there were concerns around the ongoing provision of medical services through the building, a covenant-like instrument could be put on title that ensured that the building could be only used for such a purpose. therefore ensuring the ongoing provision of medical services in that area through that facility. So there are legal ways to get an outcome that would be consistent with, I guess, the desires of the community to have that building continue to fulfil the function of a medical practice. But at this stage, we haven't progressed those discussions based on the any discussions involving the sale of the building based on previous resolution of council.
Councillor Lada, was made very, very clear to me after the rally up there and all the phone calls and emails and everything I got, as well as a petition, that the community did not want it sold. They were happy not to have a doctor in there. They were happy not to sell it to a doctor, even if it was the case that was the only way they could fill it with a doctor. They did not want it sold, and they made that very, very clear, despite the fact that there was a doctor wanting to buy it and set up a practice. So
I think
that's the way, that's what was presented to me and to us. So I guess, it's a community driven, it's community driven, and that's what they want. They also are adamant that you cannot put a covenant on it. My opinion was that I thought you could, but I've been told unequivocally by the experts of the, say, Tumbarumba people and the Ross Corner advocates that you can't put a covenant on it. Councillor Wright.
I think that we can talk to the community a bit more about this, because like I attend that doctor surgery, and a few of the people friends I know go there, and a few of us are sort of thinking it'd be damn nice to have the one doctor you go and visit each time, because you've got a bit of a problem. You're going to visit the doctor, and they're all been pretty good. I can't say they've been bad, but I've been a bit crook lately, and I've gone to 3 doctors now, and I've got 3 different opinions, and would be nice if we had a doctor there who belonged to us and was interested in following through. I mean, they look at your notes and stuff, but I think time we looked at it again, maybe with a bit more open mind and maybe a little bit more relaxed atmosphere about it.
And maybe if our consultation's a bit better, and certainly to go through the Chamber of Commerce and maybe through Lions and Rotary, and just make our consultation better.
Yeah, I agree.
You want a doctor to put his anchor into the community, his family, and get involved in the community affairs. He might even come on to council one day.
Oh my goodness.
It's nice to have somebody who lives here, who wants to live here and wants to be our family doctor, and I think it would be good.
Well,
something we should think about.
The paradox is, of course, that's exactly what we had. We had a doctor who wanted to buy the building and settle here, and he,
I agree. That was a pretty emotionally charged time, and I think with a bit of quiet discussion now, we might get a different outcome, and people have, we've got time to think about these things. So I think we should just think about it again. I personally believe that we should, if somebody's committed to wanting to buy here and live here, and we should support that. That's only my personal opinion, but I would like to have the opportunity to talk to other people in town about that.
Thank you. All right, I think it's probably enough on that one. We might just move on. Councillor Smith, quickly.
I was going to ask about going into committee on this one.
I think we've probably had enough on this. We're stretching some things a bit too far. So anything further on that list?
Yes, the Elm Drive calming project. It's under construction, and I've noticed that there are bars across the road at the racecourse and at the Broughton Street end, but there isn't anything to slow the traffic down at the Fitzroy Street or the main road entrance. Is that still going to happen?
I might hand over to Mr. Couch.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Smith. Yes, there's some more of those treatments to go in. I think another 4 in total.
Okay, thank you.
Subject to budget.
Thank you. Anything further on that? Put the motion, all in favour? Carried unanimously. Councillor Wright? Yep. Okay. Moving on to SVC Committee Strengthening Grants. So as I mentioned, this is the one that I've got number I. And Councillor Isselman has O. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a suggestion that we deal with all of those recommendations in 2 except for I and O, and that we deal with I and O separately, and the relevant councillors leave to the breakout room for that section.
Thank you. So will someone move that except for 2I and 2O? Councillor Wright, Councillor Ham. Discussion, Councillor Wright.
Fine.
Councillor Ham.
I would like to discuss this. Congratulations to the 16 people who got it, and there were 35 applications. So no doubt it was quite a tough thing to work out who got what. And $269,000 was asked for, but there was only $97,000 to be given. So tough call. I would like to discuss the governance of how this was done, though. Previously, there were 2 buckets, Southern and Northern. They've been put together. I'm not sure. It certainly didn't come to council who was to be on the committee to decide who got what funds. The people who are on there, thank you. You've done a great job. But I would like that to be reviewed so that there was equity with North and South, having councillors from either end on that committee.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Councillor Ham, as I indicated earlier on in the agenda, Council does consider the membership of committees every September, and last September we made a decision around who would be the member of the committee that goes and reviews the grants. Yes, we have had a process in the meantime where we've combined the grants program together to a one SVC model, and the membership of that committee wasn't reviewed at that time. However, next month, Council will have the opportunity to consider who are the councillors on those committees. And as we're going through the Section 355 committee review, establishing proper terms of reference and assistance to those committees that we establish.
Thank you. Thank you. So, anything further, councillors? Councillors will put 1 and 2. Excluding I and O. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. I'm leaving the room.
And I.
So I just want to do them one at a time. So, Mr. Mayor, if you would like to leave into the breakout room first. Yes, Mr. Mayor has gone. Deputy Mayor, Chairperson.
Councillors, we've got I to deal with, which is the allocation of money, $6,150 to the Adelon Community Enterprises. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Ham and Councillor Smith. Any comments?
Good to go.
There was a question here about the amount. No, that's fine. I thought it didn't tell
Which
it.
one is it? When we look at the listing.
The
Adelon Community Enterprises. Aye.
Oh, yeah. Internal painting. Internal where?
Inside the building.
What building?
The building that they occupy to I think it's like a crafty sort of place where people drop in at Adelong and
It's
Right.
yeah. It's
Like
built
Woonoon's
by
do, yeah.
Adelong Community Enterprises, and it's occupied by Rustic Creations.
Oh, yeah.
Adelong.
Okay.
Yep.
any further comments? Not, I'll put that. All those in favour?
Hang on, what about number
Hang on.
P, Camp Hudson Management Committee? Is that in the group?
We've already dealt with that, Jeff. That
Oh,
was in the
sorry.
previous one, so it's just
Yeah.
I at the moment.
Yeah.
Any comments in relation to I? We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously.
Councillor Isselman, when you go into the breakout room, would you mind asking the Mayor to return?
I
Please?
can do that for you, sir.
Thank you very much. Just wait for the Mayor to return to the meeting.
He's gone for a coffee.
Mr. Mayor is back.
Mr. Mayor, just advising you that council unanimously supported the allocation of those funds to Adelong Community Enterprises, and we haven't dealt with O yet. Handing over.
Thank you, Councillor Lada, and thank you, councillors. Moving back, so do we have a mover for O? Councillor Cross and Councillor Ham. Any discussion on O?
It sounds a great project, because I know the Lands Army was quite active in Batlow at that time, and to record that would be a great achievement, I think. So yeah, fully support it.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it can go further than that. I think if there was some sort of permanent display to the Land Army there, you may well have the sons and daughters and grandchildren and ultimately great-grandchildren of the women who were there coming up to visit Batlow to see what it was like, and to have their pictures taken in front of the Land Army mural. So I think it's a really exciting thing. I think it's a positive thing, and I think it will and it has the potential to generate tourism. Councillor Smith.
There is currently a mural about the Land Army on one of the shops adjacent to Hydes Park. I understand that this is a second mural. I'm not quite sure where this is planned to be executed. The current one is partly obliterated by a sign that has just recently been erected, which has a map on it of Batlow, and unfortunately that map is actually quite inaccurate. Now, there has been some discussion with the director about having that relocated.
Councillors, can I just stop the discussion for a minute? Just ask Councillor Isselman if you can, we haven't finished yet, so if you could go back into the
Thank you. Sorry about that.
technology, getting used to it.
Sorry, just don't know how to return. You'll tell me. Let me go.
I will set that up again. Okay, Councillor Isselman, can you see the pecuniary interest breakout room now?
So Councillor Isselman's gone back to the naughty room. Councillor Smith, please carry on.
Yes, look, that sign is currently partly obliterated by, that mural, partly obliterated by the sign in front, and Mr. Holton has arranged to have that moved. But as part of that move, could I please refer to the fact that a lot of people in Batlow have made it known that that map on that sign is quite inaccurate, in many respects. So could that be looked at when it's being relocated to actually reflect the true nature of the way Batlow is currently laid out? And the other question was, where is the second mural going to be executed? Is it on the same wall or elsewhere?
I can't answer that question. It's in Batlow. That's as far as I know.
Through the chair, Councillor Smith, if we could take that matter on notice, we can let you know the answer to that question.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing further. Councillors, I'll put that motion. All in favour? Councillor Cross, I can't see. I've got a breakout room thing in front of me. Gotcha. Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you. CEO, could you invite?
I'll just, excuse me for a minute. I'll join the breakout room and bring Councillor Isselman back.
Okay. Councillor Larder.
I was just going to say, Mr. Mayor, it'd be an opportunity to thank Luke from Snowy Hydro and Snowy Hydro for their participation in that group that selected the applications.
That'd be wonderful. Perhaps we could perhaps move that way. Snowy Hydro, of course, put 20,000 into that. Seconder, Councillor Smith. Anything further on that? So are we clear on that minute taker that we've got a motion to thank Snowy Hydro for their involvement and financial support for these grants?
Yes.
Is there no money from home?
Not to my knowledge.
No.
Put the motion. All in favour? Carried.
I also just ask Mr. Mayor that I think just on the background of that last debate about the murals, that they are a very good idea in sort of portraying our history. Perhaps given the fact that I think council probably owns the water tower at the Tumut Hospital site, whether if any grant funding becomes available, that be proposed as a future opportunity to maybe highlight the history of the medical services on that site going forward.
Thank you. That's a good idea. Thank you, Councillor Larder. Councillors, moving on. Management Cities Power Partnership Program. It's hard to say. Cities Power Partnership Program. A little bit of alliteration there. Councillor Cross, Councillor Ham. Interestingly, councillors, I did get an email the other day asking why we weren't part of this, and I was happy to be able to respond that we were looking at it on Thursday. So, Councillor Cross.
I think it fits beautifully in with our climate change forum that we had. It actually exposes us to a much broader platform. We've got access to experts in the field, both here and overseas, is my understanding. And I think it's just a logical extension of what we want to achieve. I think it's great.
Thank you, Councillor Cross. Anything further, councillors? Councillor Ham.
I just support that, and I'd ask people to read the Partnership Action Pledge on page, well, it says 14 on the screen, but 94, which actually points out, using renewable energy and making sure that our planning laws encourage residents to do the same.
Thank you. Nothing further, councillors? Put the motion. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Minutes of the committee meeting. 12.1 Audit Risk and Improvement Committee. Councillor Cross and Councillor Larder. Councillor Cross.
I think it's really important that we have this independent body. It's working extremely well. The chairperson is very vigilant about going through all of the things that come before to discuss. And as we highlighted prior with Councillor Larder, the 355 committee review that came out of that. So, it's really good to have that external looking at what we're doing and make sure that what we're doing is is as it should be.
Thank you, councillor Cross. Anything further? All in favour? Thank you. Those minutes are accepted. Minutes of the Batlow Development, July 1. Councillor Smith. Councillor Ham. So there's 4 recommendations there. Anything?
Number 3, that council, or there's a recommendation from the Batlow Development League that council seek urgent access to the Batlow cannery site for contamination using current resources and so forth. Can we, has there been any further assessment of the site? Is it in fact necessary, or have we completely cleaned up that site?
I think that was alluded to earlier by Mr. Holton. I might ask him, Mr. Holton.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Council has allocated funds as per recommendation 4 for an environmental assessment in relation to the site, as well as a spatial assessment for the site, and then further community engagement in respect of how the site may be used and how it will fit into the future of Batlow.
Thank you, Mr. Holton. Anything further, councillors? Councillor Ham.
Just in terms of 4B related to the old pack house, look, I've heard from some people it's fine, some people it's not, some people it's been burnt inside. Across the board, there is a lot of people use the word condemned. Now, but is that through council jurisdiction? Can we condemn buildings?
Once again, I'm going to ask Mr. Holton.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Where buildings are dangerous, my understanding is that we can order, that the buildings be made undangerous. In terms of ordering that the building be demolished, I don't believe that we have the power to insist that that the entire structure be demolished. And certainly, it's not a matter for council to be involved in. Council has brought the matter to the attention of the EPA, as well as met with the Public Works Authority to discuss the overall state of the building and what it could do in relation to its demolition. And that was the position that Public Works arrived at, that they would in fact demolish the fire-affected parts of the building and no more.
Thank you.
Holton. Lada. Councillor Lada.
Just in relation to council's responsibility and due diligence with when we're aware or when we've been advised that there may be chemical contaminations, what have we done in relation to that?
Mr. Holton.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the matter has been reported to the EPA, and they have referred it specifically to their bushfire team, who have investigated the matter. I can't tell you off the top of my head what the outcome of that investigation is.
Thank you.
So are they likely to report on that publicly? I mean, because obviously a lot of people in Batlow would be concerned. I mean, it would have similar ramifications to the Wagga Air Force Base and the use of the chemicals there, for instance.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I may take that one on notice and report back to councillors as to what the status of the investigation is.
Thank you, Mr. Holton. Councillor Isselman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Holton, if I may, given the amount of safety precautions that were taken on every site in relation to the asbestos situations on fire damaged areas that Lang O'Rourke were clearing, and given that the back of the cannery office building at the end of Pioneer Street opposite the school and the hospital has got a derelict building site at the back of it that is definitely asbestos located, have we heightened the risks that are there to the community in relation to the asbestos from that building?
Mr. Holton.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Elsamont, I'm afraid that's a very technical question, again, that I will have to take on notice. And I think you're referring to is this the pack house or the pack house office?
The office building, the old office building opposite the school next to the hospital.
And next to the library?
Yes.
Yeah, that hasn't been the subject of, that wasn't the subject of any of the discussions that we had with Lang O'Rourke or the EPA. So I respectfully would take that one on notice and give you a response at the next opportunity.
Thank you. Councillors, anything further from those minutes and those recommendations? Got a move and a second for the recommendations. Put the recommendations. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, that concludes the ordinary portion of the council meeting. The Local Government Act provides the council may close to the public that part of the meeting that deals with matters of a confidential nature. Section 10.2 lists such matters. The grounds on which a meeting is closed to the public must be specified in the decision to close the meeting and recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Recommendation I have here is the council move into confidential to consider the matter listed in the confidential section of the agenda in accordance with section 10.2 of the Local Government Act 1993 for the reasons specified. 13.1, Batlow Cannery variation to existing lease. Item 13.1 is a confidential under the Local Government Act 1993 section 10A, 2A and D2 as it relates to personal matters concerning particular individuals other than councillors and information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a competitor of the council, and council considers that discussion of the matter in an open meeting would be on balance contrary to the public interest. Councillors, do I have a mover to move into confidential?
Mr. Mayor, before we take a mover, the section on your run sheet about confidential is an additional.
Okay, I'll just move that. I've just got to change screens. Thank you, CEO. Where councillors participate in meetings remotely by an audio-visual link, they continue to be obliged to protect any confidential information considered at the meeting. Where meetings are closed to the public under section 10A of the Act, councillors should ensure that they participate in the meeting in a location where it cannot be seen or heard by anyone else. Councillors, do I have a mover to move into confidential? Councillor Smith, Councillor Ham, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you.
Councillors, the confidential breakout room is open now if you would like to move into that.
Where do I find the confidential paper, Matt?
The confidential paper's on the hub.
Yeah, I'm on the hub now. I mean, I've gone into contents, and where do I go now?
So you just want to go into the breakout room. Can you see where that is? And then I can help you get to that paper there.
No, where's the breakout room?
So there should be a little button there for you to join the breakout room.
I can't see anything. Here we are. Everybody, here we go.